All right, there we go. All right, happy Monday. While I'm putting attendance in for this class, will you all look at my connector question here? It's asking you about space movies. So I don't know if you're Team Star Trek or Team Star Wars. Team neither? Okay. Are there any space movies that you like? Or aliens movies? None at all? No outer space movies? Okay, we can still be friends, that's okay. I like Star Trek, I like the original Star Trek, and I like all the reboots, starring Christopher Pine. Hubba Hubba, he's my movie boyfriend. And I like The Mandalorian, he's my movie husband. And I like the movie Apollo 13, where they have to like solve the problem in space before they can get back to Earth. That's very exciting. Starring Tom Hanks and others. October Sky is a good space movie. The Right Stuff is like the best space movie of all time. Gravity is a really good one. There's a whole bunch. Interstellar, that's a great one, starring Matthew McConaughey. That's a good one. There are so many good space movies. So be thinking about what's your favorite space movie while I put attendance in. And then I've got a reading for us. We're going to do a couple days of informational text readings. But tomorrow, here's a little heads up, tomorrow we're going to build some Alka-Seltzer rockets. So I want to make sure that we're ready for that. So we have a little bit of reading. What'd you say?
Piggy Wiggy was cold, so he started like snuggling up in my jacket.
This is adorable that they love you so much. Did it get printed?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Sure, yeah. And then you have a digital copy too, so you
Yeah.
can attach that to your Helio.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to put attendance in while you all get a piece of paper set up for yourself. So I'm going to need you to use both sides of this paper. The first side we're going to use to make a little timeline, and I've got a little example for you on the board there in pink. And don't worry about the numbers just yet, because we'll fill that in as we go. But I wanted you to see just sort of how it's going to be set up. And then on the other side, we're going to divide it into quadrants and make some notes about specific space scientists. And then tomorrow we're building Alka-Seltzer rockets and launching those. And then we've got another kind of rocket that we're going to build. And then we'll get to constructing our awesome model rockets with the engines that we ignite and then the chase.
What engine?
Little engines. Dakota, honey bun, my love. Where are you supposed to be right now? I would love to have you in all of my classes all day long, but right now you gotta get your butt up and go to your third hour. I say this with all the love in my heart. I'll see you later, okay? I know. Well, I still love you. All right, I Spy with my little eyes and sleepyheads. Let me put some attendance in, and then hopefully we can wake you up with some scintillating reading. That's gonna put you back to sleep.
Reading.
Scintillating. What does that word mean?
Scintillating.
Scintillating. S-C-I. Scintillating. Ask Siri what it means.
Hey Siri, what does scintillating mean?
What does it say?
It says scintillating. Refers to something that is sparkling.
Sparkly?
That's what it says. Hey Siri. Hey Siri. What is the definition of scintillating? Yeah, and
Take
flash,
30 seconds.
sparkling or shining brightly.
Awesome. That's an awesome word then, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that funny? Like I use it just to kind of mean exciting, but it's been a really long time since I've read the definition.
Low-key eating. I mean, now. But he low-key throwing them.
Hey Robert, I'm not giving these to just everybody, so don't go around talking about it, okay?
Look at
Patrol is an organization that I joined in order to have materials for you all. Grab that pig, don't let it be close to the edge of the table there.
Please.
Alright, and what did I do with my handouts? Are they right here? Here we go.
Yo.
So this packet has quite a lot of reading, we're only gonna do a little bit of it today. Here we go, can I ask you to put your phone away for the reading, please? There we go. There we go.
Dang, Miss Vincent,
Yeah.
what should I type for reason for leaving?
Schedule conflicts.
Schedule conflicts.
Yep. Just say that they wanted to schedule you during class times that you had to be at class. That's always a good one to use. All right, let's set the tone for the week. As I look around, I see that we're having kind of a hard time changing from weekend rules to school expectations. So let's put away headphones. Let's set aside your phone for the next 20 to 25 minutes. If you need a highlighter, grab a highlighter from the dealio by the door. If you need a pencil, I've got a few here. Does anybody else need a pencil?
Yeah.
Need some pencils?
Yeah.
Here you go, I've got a few here. Does anybody else want a marker for highlighting? So nice to have something to highlight with. Let's see, who needs anything? Anything? What do you need, pencil, regular pencil?
The highlighter.
Anybody need anything? You need a pencil in here? There you go. Here we go, what you want for yours?
I'll take the highlighter.
Highlighter. More pink one? Does anybody need a pencil? Okay. Everybody have everything you need? All right. So thank you for putting away your electronics. Rodrigo, can I ask you to take them off your head, my love? Thank you. Appreciate ya. Did you guys have a wonderful Mother's Day?
It was okay.
It's a lot of work for kids, right? You have to like make a card and remember things and be nice and be good all day.
I gave her like this gift. I got her, well, they were fake flowers, but I got her like a basket full of flowers, some candy, cards.
That is wonderful.
I made her a cupcake.
Oh, I bet she felt so spoiled and special.
I gave my mom some money.
And it was like
So she can treat herself to whatever she chooses.
a
That's a
cupcake,
fun thing.
another card, and a balloon wrapped around it.
Oh, that's really nice.
What's your baby?
Yeah, that's what she got.
What's your girl
That's all.
What'd you say, Melissa? It's a pretty name.
You smelled that
Did you know it was honeybees?
Bro, that's cause with the shower over there eating with the, bro, them bitches stink.
Oh, these queso
Yes,
They
bro,
do
I smell them all the way over here.
They do stink,
But I bet they're delicious.
but they are good.
I know breath over there kicking, punching.
Let her eat her chips and peas.
Um,
All right. See this little packet? We're not gonna read the whole thing. See where I've highlighted to? That's as much as we're reading today, so don't be scared when you see all this reading. We're gonna read a little bit today. We're gonna read a little bit about the history of rocketry, just a teeny smidge. Then we're gonna read about two scientists. And then I'm gonna talk a little bit about what tomorrow is gonna be. Because tomorrow we have to build a little Alka-Seltzer rocket and launch them tomorrow. If we don't have time to launch them tomorrow, then we'll have to launch them on Wednesday. Is it tickling you? That's cute that you just start giggling all of a sudden. All right, so you've got your paper, you've got a notebook paper, right? So for this first section here, this first little section, it's got some years in there. And I'm gonna want you to construct a timeline as we're reading. I've got an example right here on the board. Do you see it here in pink? Jason, can you look up here? Can you put that phone upside down a little bit? Melissa, bring me a sandwich.
That's actually what I just asked her to make.
Did you?
Yeah.
All right, so right here's an example of a timeline. It's gonna have those dates on it, but you don't have to write the dates on it until we come across them as we're reading. Okay? Rodrigo, you know what we're doing? You okay? I see your eyeballs.
Alright, this is.
Yep, that's what we're reading. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna start us off, and if anybody has a burning desire to read out loud, then speak up, and I will grant your wish. All right, starting at the top, this is the written phase of our work building the model rocket. So we're gonna have a little bit of writing and reading, and then we're gonna do a lot of building and launching and chasing. This is a brief history of rocketry and its great pioneers. Dun, dun, dun. Perhaps the first true rockets were accidents. In the 1st century AD, the Chinese were reported to have experimented with a simple explosive powder made from saltpeter, sulfur, and charcoal. Although these powders were used to create small explosions in religious festivals, they eventually ended up in a weapon. The Chinese would fill bamboo tubes with this mixture and attach them to arrows. These fire arrows, as they were called, were used at the Battle of Peking, where the Chinese repelled the Mongol invaders with a rocket barrage. This occurred in the year 1232. All right, so 1232, Mongolia.
Where are we putting that?
So on your paper, you can use either the front or the back, it doesn't matter. But draw yourself a nice long line right across your paper. Thusly.
Are we making a timeline?
Yep, and then your first little line here is gonna say 1232.
Wait, I can't get this. Oh, here.
There we go, 1232. And then underneath it, I'm gonna write Mongolia. Isn't that, can you imagine that? Fire arrows? So like an arrow with a little bamboo tube filled with explosive stuff attached to the arrow, and then someone would fire the, launch the arrow into the sky, and then it would take the rocket with it.
1232.
Crazy to think about, 1232, the year 1232. Long, long time ago, almost 800 years ago.
Mongolia. Okay.
I like your highlighter. It's fancy schmancy.
Actually,
Those are nice keys.
you don't gotta do the two little dashes at the end.
Those are nice. Isn't it fun to have nice school supplies? Like really nice office supplies, they're so fun.
I don't gotta do shit.
Little pop bottles on the I got a bunch of little candy.
Super cute. All right, there we go. Next paragraph, and your eyeballs are following along on the text while I read it. Much later, in 1405, a German engineer by the name of Conrad Kaiser, sorry, I'm a little bit struggling with that pronunciation. Conrad Kaiser von Eichstätt devised a rocket that was propelled by gunpowder. Another European country, France, used rockets to defend Orleans against the British in 1429, and again at the siege of Pont-Andemer in 1449. Okay, so we're going to add a couple more dates. So now we're in Europe in 1429.
Okay, so this is 12, so I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
32.
Now I'm going to write France. So see,
Where
I've
you
got
put it at?
I've got it close to my 1232. So here I've got 1232 as my first line. I wrote Mongolia there. I wrote it sideways just because. This
Okay,
way.
14 what?
Now the year I just added was 1429,
Mm-hmm.
and that's in France. And then I'm going to put another line for 1449. That's also in France.
What about 1405?
So, yeah, you could include that too if you want to, that'd be great. I kinda skipped over that, but you could put that in there also.
1449, you said?
Yes. France also,
I did at the top too, cause that's how I.
that's totally fine, yep, there's more than one way to do things, right?
That's how I do.
Yep, and I'm glad that you are confident enough that you can set it up in the way that's right for you. Okay, paragraph next, ready? Let's keep it moving so we can be all done with this. During the 30-Year War, and that's from 1618 to 1648, rockets weighing as much as 100 pounds were fired. These exploded and sent small pieces of shrapnel in all directions. So that's as a weapon then, right? Rockets were extensively used in India when they were fired at the British in the battles of Seringapatam in 1792 and 1799. All right, so here we go. I'm gonna put 1618. And that's the 30-Year War. And boy, is there a social studies person in here? Was that in Europe? Will you Google it? You've got your phone number. Will you? Where was the 30-Year War? 1618.
Miss, leave it under 1405.
1405, he was a
Central Europe.
German engineer. He put
Okay,
Germany.
so,
Central Europe, particularly
Okay.
in the area embracing the Holy Roman Empire.
All right,
what was
so
the,
Central Europe.
what was the,
Where you put
the fourth one? What was the
Okay.
fourth date?
So I have 1618. That's my fourth one that I put, and that's the 30-Year War, which was in Central Europe. Thank you, Jason, for verifying that.
You said what?
That was in Europe.
16 what?
1618. Yep, and I'm taking this number right from your text. So if your eyeballs are searching for numbers, that's where I'm getting them from.
This is the third one.
The third
What
one,
is the second one?
the second one was 1429 and 1414.
Yep, thank you for catching up. And if you want to come sit closer, you can. I have all these numbers up here on the board, if you want to come sit closer. Okay, so that was 1618, the 30-Year War. And then we've got 1792 and 1799. Let's see, I'm gonna put those far down here. I know I'm gonna be going back.
You said what?
1792 and 1799. Let's see. 1792
And what was that?
and 1799. Oopsie.
In 1792 and 1799, what was that? British?
That is in India.
India.
It was, they were fighting against the British. That's where you're remembering Britain from. Don't you love the sound of a train from far away?
No.
I don't. I have to hear it twice because I live in between two train tracks.
So when I lived in Ypsilanti, I was right next to the train tracks. And one time, the crossing signal came down. It was in a rainstorm, and it didn't let up for 2 days. There's that phone number on it. You know, I called that phone number like every hour for 2 days. I was ready to go out there with a sledgehammer and take the thing down. The only thing that stopped me was like, I thought, oh, what if some teenagers drive in and they don't know that things ring in? Or, oh, it's just so upsetting. Yeah, so I can totally empathize that it gets on your
I
nerves.
was across.
Do you? Do you ever put pennies on the train tracks and let the train run them over and then go get them?
No, when we was kids, me, my dumb self, my brother, my cousins, we put rocks in the train tracks, trying to flip the train.
We did. We did try to flip the train.
With rocks. Like,
With little rocks?
we was
No,
small.
not little rock.
It was big ass, like
Big
big
rocks.
rocks. We tried to
Jeez
flip the train.
Louise. Well, I'm glad you weren't successful. The only thing we ever did was we put like pennies and nickels and stuff on the train tracks, let the train run them over and then go get them.
At the time, we didn't know we were going, that we was gonna flip it because it was gonna make the rocks like
Bust up the rocks.
crush.
No, we was trying to flip it. I remember.
I was
because
Oh,
the rock
see.
was so
talking about some, no, we were trying to
Because
flip it.
Devontae was like, yeah, we should flip the tray. I said, okay, let's do it. Exactly.
We
Exactly.
was trying to-
See, this is why children need adult supervision.
We thought the rocks were gonna like crush or shoot out.
No.
But then my dad came over and was
I
like,
forgot
y'all trying to flip the train. I'm like, oh, flip it.
He ate it.
I didn't know.
I'm glad he scared you, so you didn't do it anymore.
Full one.
So before the train came, we had to take all the rocks off.
I'm glad you did. Because it probably would have just sent the rocks flying and would have been dangerous.
That's what we thought was gonna happen.
Next paragraph. During the latter part of the 17th century, the scientific foundations for modern rocketry were laid by Sir Isaac Newton, a great British scientist. Now you've heard that name before, right? Newton organized his understanding of physical motion into 3 scientific laws covered in the Titan stage of this text. So like in our next stage, we'll learn about that. But you've already learned about and had experience,
I
Yep. yep, with the laws of motion. So remember when we did the balloon across the room? That's one of the laws of motion, that for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And remember when we did your work trying to determine the fuel efficiency of different
I
vehicles?
remember Newton's laws.
Yeah, you do.
Um,
And you remember specifically that the heavier the vehicle, the more gasoline is required to make it go.
Yeah.
Yep, that's one of Newton's laws too. That's one of the laws of motion.
I just
And then
know
you
that-
also know that an object at rest will stay at rest and an object in motion will stay in motion unless it's acted on by another force.
I'm trying to
That's the
remember
third
the
one.
Key names, the key terms, because there were names.
Inertia,
Yep, inertia.
momentum,
Momentum.
there's force.
Acceleration.
Yes, force
Acceleration.
equals,
Force.
oh, here's where Rodrigo can help you because he remembered this really well the other day. Force equals mass times,
Accelerated.
there we go,
Acceleration.
there we go. Yep, very nice. All right.
I'm trying to remember them.
Yep, so you know a lot, you have a lot of background knowledge already. All right, so Sir Isaac Newton. Okay, where did I leave off? Newton's laws soon began to have a practical impact upon the design of rockets in those days. I like to see that highlighting, good job. During the 18th century, put your phone away, rockets experienced a brief revival as a weapon of war. India used rockets with great success against the British in 1792, and that's what we just wrote down, right? And this caused Colonel William Congreve, a British artillery expert, to start using more of a scientific approach to the development of sophisticated rockets. He standardized the composition for gunpowder explosives and then added flight stabilizing guide sticks. Ooh, that's exciting. Congreve was able to increase the rocket's range from approximately 300 to over 3,000 yards. Approximately 25,000 Congreve rockets were used in 1807 at the Battle of Copenhagen. All right, so 1807. So Copenhagen is in Denmark.
I was gonna say Denmark, I don't know how to spell Copenhagen.
Yep, it's there on your sheet. If you want to look at it, it starts with a C. It's on the bottom line there on that
Oh, there
first
you go.
column. But now we're starting to have this fill in, right? Starting to cover some ground here.
Is that like a country or something?
Denmark is a country, yep, it's in Scandinavia. So you know where Europe is, and if you go north, it's the very northernmost part of Europe. All right, item next. In the War of 1812, oh my gosh, you're a senior,
No, like I literally just opened my phone and that's what it is.
and that's what happened.
Don't try to make it seem.
1812, now is that battle important to us here in Monroe?
What?
The Battle of 1812?
No. Wait. Yes.
Yes.
Wait,
So
what
when you get to,
about?
okay, so here's your extra credit opportunity. I will give you a full-on extra credit A. If sometime between today and this time tomorrow, you talk to Mr. Kunder about why the War of 1812 is important to us here in Monroe, Michigan.
Did it happen in
Because
Monroe?
they battled He over allowed to talk about that. River Raisin Battlefield.
Yes, that's where it happened, right? There was a
I was
big
just gonna
battle.
ask, did it happen in Monroe?
Right, so right where, do you remember where the old battlefield is, the old
I
battlefield
know
national park.
exactly what you're talking about.
Yes.
I live right near
So,
it.
dude, can you imagine?
Look at
So
it.
this battle happened in January. Imagine being outside down by the river in January. Ah, so cold and damp and awful. They did not have good gear. They did not have good boots.
Is there any like
And it was all trenches. It
leftover
wasn't.
body, like remain bones?
You know, I don't think that they are finding any like human artifacts, but I know that they still to this day find remnants from the battles, like musket balls and things. Talk to Kunder, come back with more info, extra credit. Alright, so the War of 1812 between Britain and the US, and I'm just gonna write Michigan because we know from our previous background knowledge that that was right here. Alright, so in the War of 1812 between Britain and the US, the British used
Oh,
rockets
I
against
know
the US
that.
troops.
I didn't know it was. I didn't know the year, but I know we had.
Yep.
But
During a typical siege, the rockets would light up the night sky. And in the battle at Fort McHenry in 1812, Francis Scott Key witnessed the display. This inspired him to write a poem which later became part of America's national anthem, the Star-Spangled Banner. Do you remember the line? And the rockets red glare. It's such a hard song to sing. I always feel bad for the people who are singing it on TV before the sports ball. It's a hard song to sing. Covers a huge range of notes. So if they're good at hitting the bottom notes, then they are reaching on the top notes and vice versa.
I don't know.
You don't have it? That's okay.
We're gonna add some
I'm
shit.
tired of
You've
hearing it
never,
every time I go.
you've never,
Alright, item next. I gotta keep it moving, you all.
you never, every basketball, any national team has to sing the national anthem.
They do it at the high school games too.
I
Yeah.
was just saying, they do it at the high school.
Yeah.
We did it like when I was going to the high school, they had to sing things and everything.
They did it for my performance too.
We can laugh at each other.
But it's
Just
just,
asking if you're good.
it's just the country's national anthem.
Alright, item next, here we go. Even, I'm right here, if you're following along, as you should be, I'm right here, this paragraph right there.
In the War of 1812,
Even with William Congreve's technological developments, the accuracy of rockets still left much to be desired. So they could make them go, but they couldn't decide where they were gonna go. William Hale, an Englishman, developed a technique called spin stabilization. Hey, Memphis. In this technology, the escaping exhaust gases struck small veins at the bottom of the rocket, those we know as fins, causing it to spin like a bullet in flight. This gave the rocket much greater stability and accuracy. Anybody here play football? Anybody here ever throw a football?
I was
So
a QB.
what's the point of throwing a spiral?
so it can. I mean,
It travels straighter.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it travels straighter. It doesn't go off. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just all the way around better, right? Yep, so they want rockets to do that too. They make
And
rockets
it's
so
easier
they
to
can spin
catch the
it.
ball with a spiral
That's kind of scary.
than with not a spiral.
So you, it
So
just
the
has
rockets,
more
No,
accuracy.
no.
so the rockets went
Yeah.
up and spin
Yep, they spun.
upward to them.
Well, every time it was in flight, it was spinning.
It's a good day, good mood
That's
day.
a dangerous rocket.
Good
Yep,
day to go.
For sure.
So,
Alright, even with improvements in stabilization, the rocket was never used as a major military weapon until the 20th century. Standard artillery was much more widely used because of the superior accuracy of a cannon projectile for hitting a specific target. By the end of the 19th century, men were beginning to dream of traveling into space and reaching other planets. To accomplish such a feat required a machine that had great power and speed. At first, the scientific community scoffed at the idea of spaceflight, like they thought that was a stupid idea. But a few brave scientists continued to dream and even develop experiments using rocket power. All right, so this was by the end of the 18th century.
What page we all on?
We just finished this
We're
already
timeline
done.
portion
I
right
need to
here on the
catch up,
front
buddy.
page.
What? Here.
No, wait.
All right, can you see my timeline? Jason, can you see my timeline? David, you can see it, you guys can see it. Does Shira and Jasmine, can you guys see it? All right, so,
I didn't put none all the way at the end.
so at the end,
I gotta get, yeah, and I gotta figure out how to like.
at the end is the late 18th century,
So.
which means the 1900s. Yep, so I have a little note on the board. If you're talking about the 1900s, we call that the 20th century. If you're talking about the 1800s, we call that the 19th century. Maybe I just misspoke. But by the end of the 1800s,
So
people-
20th century?
19th century. I know that I misspoke, I'm sorry. But by the end of the 1800s, people were dreaming of flying into outer space on some kind of a rocket ship. Until then, all the rockets were used as weapons. And then by the late 1800s, people are starting to think of them as vehicles.
The 19th century.
Yeah, to travel into outer space.
And
Would you go?
What are we
Would you do a Katy Perry and go into outer space?
What are we labeling the 19th century? What is the name? I mean the event for the 19th.
So by the 19th century, people were thinking of rockets as vehicles as opposed to just weapons.
Miss V, do you want to hold Katy Perry?
No, not at all, not even a little bit. Like, I'm scared to get in a regular Boeing 747.
I'm not.
Yes, I'm scared, I'm scared of flying.
It looks.
Oh, you're
I
scared of
used to be
airplanes?
scared. I used
I
to be
love
scared of
airplanes.
flying, but
I was scared to fly my very first time, but like,
yeah, me too.
after that, I love airplanes.
I've done it a few times, but I remain.
I just don't like
I
when
love
I just
when
don't like
there's
when
a
my ears
storm
pop.
underneath, like if the airplane's over a storm at night, you see all the lightning, and it's some
Damn,
like,
she hit the curb.
You
the
like
turbulence, that's,
Yeah.
you think you're gonna die, but it's looking worth it to be.
On the back of your paper, we're gonna put some more information. See how I divided this paper into 4? I just did this as I was taking notes. You're gonna do this on the back of your timeline. So can you just draw a great big cross in the middle of your paper to divide your paper into 4?
In the back.
Yep, on the back is fine. Like that. You know, just so you have quadrants. You need a piece of paper, huh? Sorry, dude. Here we go. You need a pencil too? Alright, here we go, just in case. There's a back marker for
Just
highlighting.
make a
there's that.
line, Dad. Just make a line and cross.
Man, they got a lot.
Okay, here's what's gonna happen. I need to challenge you now. You ready for a challenge, Jason? Yes, okay, so here's your challenge.
Make a cross.
I'm gonna read about this guy named Konstantin Tsiolkovsky. And I'm gonna read about him fairly quickly, and I want you to write down a few notes based on what I read. And then at the end, we'll see if your notes match my notes. I wrote down like 5 or 6 little things here, and I'm gonna ask you all to write down 5 or 6 little things that sound important to you. And we'll see if what you wrote down matches what I wrote down. I
Does
wanna
it
do
have
this.
to? It has to match?
No, it doesn't have to match, but we'll just see. Just a challenge. See if you think what's important is the same as what I thought was important.
I mean, I feel like all of it is important because what if that happens in the modern days? I don't know.
I think when you hear me read it, you'll understand that some of it is worth writing down and some of it is just interesting to know. But you don't necessarily need to write it down and have it in the forefront of your attention. All right, seniors, follow along with me, please, dears. I only get to fuss at you for like 13 more times. Do your work. And then for the whole rest of your life, nobody will be fussing at you about schoolwork.
So glad.
You don't need anybody to fuss at you. All right, here we go. Konstantin Eduardovich Tsiolkovsky. And he lived from 1857 to 1935. Tsiolkovsky was a Russian teacher who made some of the first mathematical computations for rocket flights into space. He was born in Izhevsko, Russia, and was the fifth of 18 children. His poor mother. His father was a forester by trade, so he went out in the forest and cut down trees. Sounds like when he came home, he did other things. All right, he was a visionary and is still considered by his countrymen to be the first scientist to lay the foundation for space exploration. Ooh, that sounds like that. At the age of 10, he came down with scarlet fever and was handicapped with near total deafness for the rest of his life. This disability forced him to turn inward. He developed a lifelong passion for books.
Okay, now what was that?
So now I'm on page 2, and I just finished reading this little part here that I have highlighted. What I highlighted was that he had a disability that forced him to turn inward, and he just really enjoyed books.
What ethnicity was
He was Russian, so that was his nationality, so I suppose Caucasian is what you refer to his, race as a social construct.
he? Yeah.
But sometimes nationality and cultural heritage overlap. I imagine it did for him. The hearing impairment forced him to leave public education, and it was then that young Constantine decided to educate himself at home. In the early 1870s, his family recognized the boy's brilliance and sent him to Moscow to study. Boy, that must have been hard since they had 18 kids. Here, he met Nikolai Fedorov, an eccentric philosopher who shared his radical theories on cosmism, studying the stars. This relationship had a profound effect on the future thinking of the young Tsiolkovsky. Historians agree that Nikolai Fedorov's theories inspired Tsiolkovsky's interest in spaceflight. In his quest to read everything about the subject,